Millions of people buy creatine hoping for bigger muscles, more strength, and faster progress. Others avoid it because they've heard it damages your kidneys, causes hair loss, or is basically a legal steroid. Here's the strange part. Both groups are usually wrong about something. So instead of arguing about creatine, let's do something more interesting. Let's follow one person through an entire year. Not day by day, but milestone by milestone. We'll see what actually changes, what doesn't, and why the biggest effect of creatine isn't what most people think it is. Let's start with day 1. You swallow your first 5 grams of creatine. You look in the mirror. Nothing. Your muscles don't suddenly grow. You don't feel stronger. You don't walk into the gym with superhero powers. In fact, if someone secretly replaced your creatine with flour, you probably wouldn't notice anything that day. So what just happened? More than you think. Creatine isn't a stimulant like caffeine. It doesn't wake your brain up or flood your body with energy. Instead, it quietly begins filling up your muscles with something called phosphocreatine. Think of your muscles like a phone battery. Every time you lift something heavy or sprint as fast as you can, that battery drains incredibly fast. Your body has a tiny backup charger called phosphocreatine. Its job is simple: recharge your muscles almost instantly during short bursts of intense effort. The problem, most people don't have completely full stores. Creatine supplementation gradually fills that backup battery. But here's the first twist. Even though your muscles are becoming better prepared, you probably still won't notice anything. And that's exactly why many people quit too early. Because the biggest changes at first are happening where you can't see them. Now fast forward 1 week. You step onto a scale. It's higher. Maybe 1 kilogram, maybe 2. You panic. Did I just gain fat? No. This is probably the most misunderstood part of creatine. The extra weight is mostly water, but not the kind most people imagine. People often picture water trapped under the skin, making them look bloated. That's not usually what happens. Instead, creatine pulls more water inside muscle cells. Imagine blowing a little more air into a balloon. The balloon becomes slightly fuller. Your muscles can appear a bit fuller too. Now, here's the question that starts endless internet debates. Is it just water? Is it fake muscle? At first glance, it sounds like cheating. After all, if you stop taking creatine, some of that extra water goes away. So does that mean creatine is just an illusion? Not so fast, because that extra water may actually help create a better environment for muscle growth. A well-hydrated muscle cell is like a busy construction site that has finally received enough supplies to keep working efficiently. Scientists are still studying exactly how much cell hydration contributes to muscle growth, but there's another effect we know much more about, and it changes everything. Let's jump to month 1. You're now doing something interesting in the gym. Not dramatically more, just slightly more. Maybe 1 extra repetition, maybe 5 extra pounds on the bar. Maybe your last set doesn't feel quite as exhausting. Honestly, it doesn't sound impressive. 1 extra rep? Who cares? This is where almost everyone misunderstands how progress actually works. Imagine 2 people saving money. One saves $1 every day. The other saves $1.10. After 1 day, the difference is meaningless. After 1 year, it's much larger than anyone expected. Training works the same way. Creatine rarely transforms 1 workout. It transforms hundreds of workouts. 1 quality rep today, another next week, a little more training volume next month. Those tiny improvements start stacking on top of each other, and suddenly, something that looked insignificant becomes meaningful. This is exactly why researchers consistently find improvements in strength and power during high-intensity exercise. Creatine doesn't replace hard work, it helps you squeeze a little more out of it. Now, another month passes. You're looking in the mirror more often. Your shirts fit differently. People start asking if you've been working out. Now the obvious question appears. Is creatine finally building muscle? Here's where we need to separate 2 ideas. Creatine itself doesn't build muscle the way bricks build a house. Instead, it helps you create better workouts. Those better workouts give your body a stronger reason to adapt. Think of creatine like upgrading the engine in a delivery truck. The engine doesn't build houses, it just delivers more building materials more efficiently day after day. That's why some people misunderstand what the research actually says. When scientists compare resistance training alone versus resistance training plus creatine, the creatine group generally gains more lean mass and strength. But the difference isn't magical, it's cumulative. Which leads to another fascinating question. If creatine works so well, why doesn't everyone become huge after 6 months? Because creatine solves only one problem. Your body still needs enough protein, enough calories, enough sleep, a smart training program, consistency. Imagine giving a master carpenter the best hammer ever made. If you never deliver wood, nothing gets built. Creatine amplifies good habits. It doesn't replace them. Now let's fast forward to month 6. You've been taking creatine every day. The excitement is gone. It's become part of your routine. And this is where the biggest misconception appears. People expect creatine to keep producing new effects forever. It doesn't. Your muscles eventually reach a point where their creatine stores are close to full. Once the tank is filled, you're mostly maintaining it. So why keep taking it? Because every workout still benefits from having a full backup energy system. It's like keeping your phone fully charged every night. You don't expect the battery to become even bigger, you simply want it ready whenever you need it. Now let's talk about one of the biggest fears surrounding creatine: kidney damage. You've probably heard this warning, maybe from a friend, maybe online, maybe even from someone at the gym. It sounds scary. After all, creatine increases something called creatinine in your blood. Creatinine is often used as a marker of kidney function. So doesn't that prove creatine harms your kidneys? Here's the twist. Not necessarily. Creatinine is a normal breakdown product of creatine. If you take more creatine, your creatinine levels can increase slightly, even if your kidneys are perfectly healthy. That's why doctors interpret creatinine alongside other information, instead of treating it as automatic evidence of kidney damage. Even more importantly, numerous controlled studies and long-term reviews have found that creatine supplementation does not appear to harm kidney function in healthy individuals when used at recommended doses. That's a very important sentence. Healthy individuals. If someone already has kidney disease or another medical condition, they should speak with their healthcare provider before using creatine. But for healthy adults, decades of research have built one of the strongest safety records of any sports supplement. So, case closed? Not yet, because another rumor refuses to disappear: hair loss. This story started because one small study found that creatine supplementation increased levels of a hormone called DHT in a group of rugby players. Since DHT is linked to male pattern baldness, many people jump to a dramatic conclusion: creatine causes hair loss. But here's the problem. The study never measured actual hair loss. Could future research uncover something new? Science is always open to new evidence, but based on what we know today, the claim that creatine causes hair loss remains unproven. Now let's move to something most people never expect: your brain. When most people hear the word creatine, they think of muscles. But your brain also uses a tremendous amount of energy. Researchers are investigating whether creatine might help certain aspects of brain function, especially during sleep deprivation, in older adults, or in people whose diets naturally contain less creatine, such as some vegetarians. The evidence is promising in some situations, less convincing in others. So, unlike strength benefits, which are well established, brain benefits are still an active area of research. That's an important distinction. Good science isn't about pretending every finding is equally certain. It's about knowing which conclusions deserve confidence and which still need more evidence. Now we've reached the 1-year mark. So what actually changed? Did creatine transform you into someone unrecognizable? Probably not. Did it secretly work every single day? Absolutely. Not because it was performing miracles while you slept, but because it quietly improved hundreds of training sessions. Think about the entire year. Maybe you completed 1 extra rep in dozens of workouts.
Maybe you lifted slightly heavier weights, recovered a little faster between hard sets, maintained training quality for just a bit longer. None of those moments looked extraordinary on their own, but together, they changed where you ended up. And that's the lesson most people miss. We love dramatic transformations, before and after photos, 30-day challenges, miracle supplements. But the human body usually doesn't change through giant leaps. It changes through thousands of tiny advantages repeated over and over again. Creatine is one of those advantages. Which brings us to one final question. What happens if you stop taking it after a year? Many people think they'll lose everything. The truth is much less dramatic. Over the next few weeks, your muscles gradually lose the extra water stored because of higher creatine levels. You might notice the scale drop slightly. Your muscles may look a little less full. Your performance advantage during short, intense efforts may fade. But here's what usually doesn't disappear: the muscle you built through months of consistent training. Those muscle fibers didn't appear because of water. They appeared because you trained hard enough to force your body to adapt. Creatine simply helped make many of those workouts a little better. And that's the biggest surprise of all. After an entire year, the most important thing creatine changed wasn't your supplement cabinet. It wasn't the number on the scale. It wasn't even the water inside your muscles. It was your training. Because every great workout became just a little bit better. And when you repeat a little bit better hundreds of times, the results stop looking little. That's why creatine has remained one of the few supplements that consistently survives decades of scientific testing. Not because it's magic, not because it's steroids, not because it guarantees massive muscles, but because in a world full of supplements promising miracles, creatine quietly delivers something much more valuable. A small advantage, repeated every single day. And sometimes that's exactly what makes the biggest difference.